The blare of 1,000 horns was a solid wall of sound, pressing in on Walter from all sides. He stood utterly alone in the unforgiving heart of the intersection, his worn wooden cane tapping uselessly against the hot asphalt. The crossing signal, his only guide, had fallen silent, leaving him marooned in a torrent of steel and impatience. And then, through the growing chaos, a small, scruffy shadow moved, a silent promise in a world that had suddenly gone deaf to his pleas. Hello, fellow story lovers, and welcome back to our quiet corner of forgotten tales. Today, we're delving into a true urban legend, the kind of story that reminds us of the profound, unexpected connections that can bloom amidst the relentless pace of a modern city. The tale of a blind old man, a stray dog, and the extraordinary moment they stopped Chicago. By the time we finish this journey, I promise you will never look at the strangers passing you on the street or the animals waiting by their side the same way again. If you cherish these moments of unexpected grace, these glimpses into the profound humanity hidden in plain sight, please consider joining our growing family by hitting that subscribe button. It helps us continue bringing these stories to light. Now, let's step back into that sweltering Chicago afternoon and uncover the quiet miracle that unfolded. Chicago, a city of titans and tireless energy, where the wind whispers tales of ambition through canyons of glass and steel. It's a place where millions move with purpose, often in a hurry, their lives intersecting and diverging in a symphony of constant motion. And within this vibrant, ceaseless rhythm lived Walter. Walter wasn't a titan of industry or a figure of public renown. He was, to most, simply one of the city's many unseen anchors, a man whose presence was a quiet, steady, not the bustling downtown hum. At 78 years old, Walter's world had long been painted in shades of sound, touch, and memory, the vibrant hues of sight having faded with the passage of time and an insidious glaucoma that stole his vision years ago. His face, a map of gentle wrinkles, held a permanent expression of thoughtful contemplation, a kindness etched deeply around his sightless eyes. His hands, gnarled with age and honest work, knew the texture of every brick on his daily path, the familiar weight of his worn wooden cane, and the subtle shifts in the air that told him of an approaching storm or a sudden gust from Lake Michigan. He dressed simply, practically, in well-maintained clothes that spoke of a quiet dignity and a lack of fuss. Every morning, with the precision born of long practice, he would prepare his modest breakfast, listening to the city stir outside his small, meticulously ordered apartment. The scent of brewing coffee, mingling with the faint, distant scent of exhaust fumes and fresh rain, was his symphony. His routine was his anchor, a carefully choreographed dance through the urban landscape. A trip to the small grocery store on Elm Street, a visit to the park bench he favored near the old oak tree, perhaps a stop at the library where the friendly librarian always had a new audiobook waiting for him. Each journey was a testament to his independence, a silent defiance against the world that often seemed designed for those who could see. He relied on the symphony of the city, the rumble of buses, the distant wail of sirens, the cadence of footsteps, the murmuring flow of conversations, and most crucially, the rhythmic and then the melodic chime of pedestrian crossing signals. These were his eyes, guiding him through the intricate ballet of traffic. On this particular Tuesday, the Chicago summer was in full glorious bloom. The air was thick with heat and humidity, a tangible weight that pressed down from the bright, cloudless sky. Walter had decided to visit the library, his anticipation for the new mystery novel a pleasant hum beneath the summer drone. He had walked his usual route, his cane a familiar extension of his arm, tapping, probing, assuring. The smells of the city were vivid, the sharp scent of hot asphalt, the sweet undertone of blossoming flowers from a nearby planter, the unmistakable aroma of hot dogs and grilled onions from a street vendor just a block away. All these familiar sensations were woven into the tapestry of his experience, confirming his location and reassuring his journey. He reached the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Huron Street, a particular line and busy crossing. Even for a sighted person, it was a challenge, a confluence of 4 lanes of roaring traffic, impatient drivers, and a constant stream of pedestrians. For Walter, it was a moment requiring absolute concentration. He stood patiently at the curb, feeling the vibrations of the passing cars through the solace of his shoes, listening intently for the pedestrian signal. He heard the characteristic begin, a comforting pulse that told him to prepare. He heard the flow of traffic on Michigan Avenue begin to slow, the collective sigh of engines easing off the gas. He felt the light surge of other pedestrians around him, their movements indicating their readiness to cross. Then, the asterisk tick dash talk asterisk ceased. He waited for the familiar melodic chime, the all-clear signal that opened his path. But it didn't come. Silence. A sudden, unsettling void where the sound should have been. The traffic on Michigan Avenue, which had just begun to halt, now surged forward again with a renewed roar. The cross-street traffic, which should have been moving, was now at a standstill, their horns beginning to blare in frustrated impatience. Walter's brow furrowed. He tapped his cane tentatively forward, feeling only empty air before the curb. He tapped to his left, then to his right. There was no audible signal, no gentle jostle from a fellow pedestrian moving ahead. The world had gone silent for him in the most critical of moments. A cold knot of fear began to tighten in his stomach. He was disoriented, stranded. He knew he was at the intersection, but which direction was safe? The horns grew louder, a cacophony of annoyance and urgency. They weren't directed asterisk at asterisk him, not yet, but they were certainly not helping. He could feel the vibrations of large trucks passing disturbingly close. He heard the agitated shouts of drivers, though the words were lost in the din. His heart began to pound, a frantic drum against his ribs. He gripped his cane tighter, his knuckles white. To move now would be suicide. To stay was to invite disaster. He felt utterly exposed, a small, fragile island in a raging river of steel. He longed for a hand, a voice, a simple guiding touch, but none came. The city in its relentless momentum seemed to have forgotten him entirely. It was at this precise, terrifying moment, amidst the chaos and Walter's rising panic, that a presence shifted beside him. It wasn't a human presence. It was small, scruffy, and silent. He felt a gentle, almost imperceptible nudge against his leg, then a soft, warm pressure against his hand that wasn't his cane. It was a snout, slightly damp, followed by the tentative brush of fur. He stiffened, surprised, momentarily forgetting his peril. What was this? A dog? A stray by the feel of it? He heard no leash, no human voice calling it. The pressure on his hand became a subtle, insistent pull. It wasn't aggressive, not even firm, but more like a quiet invitation. Curious, and with little else to lose, Walter allowed his hand to be guided. The dog, a small to medium-sized creature, muddy and thin, with a piece of rope around its neck where a collar should have been, began to move. Slowly, cautiously, it eased Walter forward, directly into the maelstrom of the intersection. Walter, against all instinct, allowed himself to be led. He felt the soft, rhythmic tapping of the dog's paws against the hot asphalt, a surprisingly confident rhythm. The pull was gentle but unwavering, guiding his hand, and by extension, his entire body. As they stepped fully into the intersection, something remarkable happened. The cacophony of horns, which had been a deafening assault just moments before, began to soften. One horn fell silent, then another, then a cascade of silence rippled through the traffic. Drivers who had been focused solely on their own delayed journeys looked up, their frustrations moment forgotten. They saw the blind old man, his face a mixture of fear and bewildered trust. being led by a scruffy, determined stray dog. The sight was so unexpected, so utterly out of place in the aggressive urban landscape, that it commanded an instant collective halt. A taxi driver, whose hand had been hovering over his horn, lowered it slowly. A truck driver, leaning out his window to shout, paused mid-sentence. Cars on all four sides of the intersection, which had been pressing forward, now came to a complete stop. Engines idled, their low rumble the only remaining sound in a suddenly hushed world. The city, known for its impatience and relentless pace, had truly, undeniably stopped. The dog, later named Chance by Walter, moved with an almost preternatural calm. Its sharp, intelligent eyes, initially cautious, seemed to be scanning the environment, navigating the invisible currents of traffic. It led Walter not with urgency, but with a deliberate, careful pace, ensuring each step was safe. Walter felt the dog's warmth beside him, a steady, comforting presence. He could feel the slight tension in its small body, the focus of its purpose. The journey across the wide intersection, which should have been agonizingly long, felt like an eternity and a fleeting moment all at once. Every driver, every pedestrian on the curb watched in stunned silence as the unlikely pair completed their crossing. Walter felt the familiar upward slope of the curb. The dog nudged him gently, ensuring he was fully on the sidewalk, then released his hand. Walter stood there for a moment, disoriented but profoundly relieved, the silence of the city still ringing in his ears. He knelt slowly, his old knees creaking, and reached out a trembling hand, searching for his rescuer. His fingers found the soft, matted fur, the thin, bony frame beneath. He stroked the dog's head, feeling the vibration of a tentative wag from its tail. The dog licked his hand, a warm, soft gesture of reassurance. Around them, the city slowly began to stir again. A few hesitant horns sounded, then a trickle of traffic, then the full torrent resumed. But for a precious few minutes, the heart of Chicago had beaten in unison with the steps of a blind man and a stray dog. Walter stood up, his hands still resting gently on the dog's head. He knew, with an absolute certainty, that he couldn't leave this creature. This dog had saved his life, and in doing so, had etched itself into the very core of his being. He would call him Chance for the incredible chance encounter that had brought them together, and for the second chance at life the dog had given him. He carefully unwound the piece of rope from around the dog's neck, a silent promise to replace it with a proper collar, a symbol of their new, unbreakable bond. The first few weeks with Chance were a quiet revolution in Walter's meticulously ordered life. He had always been a solitary man, finding comfort in routine and the familiar rhythm of his own thoughts. Chance, however, brought a vibrant, unpredictable energy into his small apartment. The scruffy stray, initially wary, quickly settled into a pattern of unwavering devotion. Walter's days, once a carefully planned sequence of tasks, now revolved around the dog's needs and the joyous spontaneity he brought. He spent hours meticulously bathing Chance, gently working out the matted fur and the ingrained street grime. Beneath the matted neglect, a handsome, alert dog emerged, with soft, brown fur and those incredibly intelligent, kind eyes that seemed to miss nothing. The piece of rope was replaced with a sturdy, new collar and leash, a symbol of belonging. Chance, once skeletal, slowly began to fill out, his ribs less prominent, his steps more energetic. Their new routine quickly solidified. Chance, with an uncanny intuition, learned Walter's habits, anticipating his needs. He would wait patiently by the door when it was time for their morning walk, a soft whine his only prompt. He would curl up at Walter's feet while he listened to his audiobooks, his rhythmic breathing a comforting counterpoint to the narrator's voice. He became Walter's shadow, his ears twitching at the slightest sound, his body a warm presence against Walter's leg. Walter's world expanded dramatically. With Chance by his side, the once daunting streets of Chicago felt less formidable. Chance wasn't a trained service dog, not in the traditional sense, but his instincts were unparalleled. He would subtly guide Walter around unexpected obstacles, a gentle pull on the leash, indicating a low-hanging branch or a sudden crack in the sidewalk. He seemed to sense approaching pedestrians, giving Walter a quiet moment to prepare. The city, which had once felt like a series of sensory challenges, now felt like a shared adventure. Their walks became a source of quiet joy. Walter would describe the smells and sounds to Chance, knowing the dog understood on some fundamental level. Hear that, Chance? The lake breeze carrying the scent of salt and fish. Or maybe it's just a new hot dog stand. Chance would respond with a soft nuzzle against his hand, a quiet affirmation. People on the street, who once hurried past Walter with a polite but distant deference, now offered warm smiles and often stopped to admire Chance. What a good boy, they'd say, and Walter would beam, a pride blooming in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. The dog had not only saved his life, but had also reconnected him to the vibrant human pulse of the city. One sunny afternoon, a few weeks after Chance had come into his life, Walter was enjoying the warmth on his favorite park bench. Chance was dozing peacefully at his feet, a contented sigh escaping him every now and then. Walter, running his fingers through Chance's now soft, clean fur, felt a small, hard object near the dog's neck, hidden beneath the new collar. It was cold, metallic, and smooth. His fingers carefully worked it free. It was a dog tag, old and tarnished with faded engraving. He lifted it closer to his face, his sightless eyes focusing on the faint contours, as if by sheer willpower he could discern the words. He rubbed the surface with his thumb, trying to clean away the grime. The tag was clearly separate from the new identification tag he had bought for Chance. This was an old one, a remnant of a previous life. He felt a pang of curiosity mingled with a faint apprehension. Who was Chance before he was Chance? He carefully made his way to a nearby street vendor, a kindly woman who knew him by name. "Excuse me, Maria," Walter said, holding out the tag. "Would you mind reading this for me? My eyes aren't what they used to be." Maria, a warm heart woman with a ready smile, took the tag. "Of course, Walter," she said. She squinted, her finger tracing the faint etchings. It says ... Milo, and beneath that ... Chicago PD K9 unit. There's a phone number too. Walter froze, the blood draining from his face. "Milo?" he whispered. "Chicago PD." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Chance, his beloved stray, was not just any dog. He was a police dog, a canine officer, and he had a name, Milo, a family, a handler. He felt a sudden, profound sense of conflict. He had saved Milo, given him a home, loved him fiercely, but Milo wasn't truly his. He belonged to someone else, someone who was undoubtedly missing him. The joy of their bond was suddenly overshadowed by the weight of this new, inescapable truth. His walk home was quieter than usual, the vibrant city sounds muted by the turmoil in his mind. Chance, sensing his change in mood, kept nudging his hand, looking up at him with those intelligent eyes, as if asking what was wrong. Walter forced a smile, stroking the dog's head. "It's nothing, boy," he murmured, just ... thinking. But his heart was heavy. He knew what that had to do. Milo deserved to be reunited with his original family, with his partner. The thought of losing him twisted in Walter's gut, a pain sharper than any physical ache. But his conscience, forged in a lifetime of quiet integrity, demanded it. The next morning, with a heavy heart, Walter called the number on the tag. He explained his situation, his voice trembling slightly as he recounted finding the dog. the incident at the intersection, and the discovery of the tag. The voice on the other end of the line, a gruff but clearly emotional male voice, listened in stunned silence. "Milo," the voice finally said, filled with disbelief and a raw, palpable hope. "You found Milo?" Within the hour, a police car pulled up outside Walter's apartment building. Walter, with Chance sitting faithfully beside him, waited by the entrance. The officer who stepped out of the car was a middle-aged man, his uniform crisp, his face etched with a mixture of hope and trepidation. This was Officer Grant. Grant's story was one of quiet devastation. Milo, his K-9 partner for 5 years, had been lost 6 months prior during a chaotic and tragic incident. There had been an explosion, a desperate rescue mission gone awry. Milo, ever brave, had been instrumental in locating victims, but in the confusion and debris, he had been separated from Grant. Despite extensive searches, Milo was never found. Grant had grieved deeply, convinced his partner had perished or been stolen. The loss had left a gaping hole in his life, both personally and professionally. He had been a shell of himself, carrying the weight of Milo's disappearance like a heavy shroud. Now, standing before Walter, the impossible was happening. As Grant approached, his gaze fell upon the dog. His breath hitched. It was Milo, there was no doubt. The distinctive set of his ears, the intelligent spark in his eyes, the way his tail gave a tentative wag as he seemed to recognize the uniform, the familiar scent. Tears welled in Grant's eyes, unashamed. He knelt immediately, stretching out a hand. "Milo, boy, is that really you?" He choked out, his voice thick with emotion. Milo, with a low, joyful bark, sprang forward, burying his head against Grant's chest, wagging his tail furiously. The reunion was raw, pure, and utterly heartbreaking to watch, especially for Walter. Grant hugged Milo fiercely, murmuring endearments, tears streaming down his face as he ruffled the dog's fur, feeling the familiar warmth, the familiar shape. He checked Milo over, his eyes scanning for injuries, for signs of his ordeal. Milo responded with joyous licks and a boundless energy that Grant hadn't seen in months. Walter stood silently, a profound ache in his chest. He had known this moment would come, but it didn't lessen the pain. He watched Milo's joyous reunion, a testament to the powerful bond between a working dog and his handler. He knew he had done the right thing, but it felt like tearing a piece of his own soul away. Grant finally looked up, his eyes, still wet with tears, meeting Walter's sightless ones. "Thank you," he said, his voice husky with motion. "Thank you, sir. I can't even begin to tell you what this means." "I thought he was gone forever." Walter nodded, a small, sad smile touching his lips. "He is a good dog, officer." "A very good dog." He knelt down, stroking Milo's head one last time. "Goodbye, my Chance," he whispered, pressing his face into the dog's fur. "Be well." Milo, torn between his past and his present, looked from Grant to Walter, a confused whine escaping him. He licked Walter's hand one last time, a gesture of deep affection. Officer Grant, however, was watching Walter, truly seeing him for the first time. He saw the kindness in the old man's face, the slight tremor in his hands, the profound sadness in his posture. He saw the genuine love between Walter and Milo. He had heard Walter's story on the phone, the incredible act of heroism at the intersection, the blind man saved by his lost partner. He saw the new collar, the healthy glow in Milo's fur, the way Milo instinctively leaned against Walter's leg, even as he greeted Grant. This wasn't just a dog Walter had found, this was a bond. An undeniable, life-saving, soul-deep bond. Grant knew that Milo was a police dog. He was trained, a vital part of the force, but he was also family. And what Walter had given Milo was a second chance at life, at warmth, at love, when all hope seemed lost. And what Milo had given Walter was immeasurable. Grant stood up slowly, looking from the blind old man to his beloved dog, and then back to Walter. His heart wrestled with conflicting loyalties. Duty called, but compassion pleaded. He remembered the desperate, lonely months without Milo. He understood the pain of loss. He looked at Walter's kind, wrinkled face, etched with a quiet sorrow, and an idea, perhaps an impossible one, began to form. "Walter," Grant said, his voice softer now, less formal. "Milo ... He was a canine officer, a working dog. But he's been through a lot, and you saved him. You gave him a life when he had nothing. And he saved yours." He paused, taking a deep breath. "Sir, I need to ask you something. I know this is unorthodox, but would you consider keeping him?" Walter's head snapped up, his sightless eyes wide with shock. "Keep him," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "B-U-T, he's a police dog. Your partner." He was my partner, Grant clarified, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "And he's a part of the force." But the truth is, after what he went through, after being lost for so long, he might not be suitable for active duty anymore. More importantly, he continued, looking down at Milo, who had settled contentedly between them, nudging both of their hands, he clearly has found a new purpose. A new partner. He knelt down again, placing a hand on Milo's head, then on Walter's shoulder. "Walter, Milo is more than just a dog to me. He's family. And seeing him with you, seeing how happy he is, how safe, it's clear where he belongs now. He's a veteran, and so are you, in a way. You both served your time, both found each other when you needed it most. He can still be a hero, Walter, your hero. And you're his." Walter reached out, his hand finding Milo's fur once more. The dog licked his fingers, a soft, warm gesture of absolute devotion. Tears, this time of profound relief and overwhelming gratitude, welled in Walter's eyes. Are you sure, officer?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "I've never been more sure of anything," Grant said, a genuine smile now gracing his face. "Just promise me you'll let me visit. He's still my boy after all." And so the impossible became reality. Milo, the lost canine officer, found his permanent home with Walter, the blind old man he had rescued. Officer Grant, demonstrating a depth of compassion and understanding that transcended duty, had orchestrated an outcome that warmed the hearts of everyone who heard the story. The news spread quickly through the Chicago PD, then through the city itself. The tale of the blind man, the stray dog, and the moment they stopped Chicago became an urban legend, a cherished anecdote passed from person to person. The city, known for its tough exterior, found itself unexpectedly touched. News stations picked up the story, reporting on the unusual reunion and Officer Grant's compassionate decision. People would stop Walter and Milo on the street, not just to admire the dog, but to shake Walter's hand, to offer a kind word, to thank him for demonstrating such quiet resilience. Walter, once a solitary figure, now found himself embraced by the community. He and Milo became local celebrities, symbols of hope, resilience, and the power of unexpected connection. Milo thrived in his new role as Walter's constant companion and unofficial guide dog. His intelligence, once honed for police work, was now channeled into anticipating Walter's every need. He learned the nuances of Walter's footsteps, the subtle shifts in his posture that indicated a need for assistance. He became Walter's eyes, his ears, and his unwavering anchor in a world that could still be challenging. He was no longer just Chance the stray, nor Milo, the police canine. He was Walter's Milo, a loyal friend and a cherished family member. Officer Grant became a regular visitor, his uniform a familiar sight outside Walter's apartment. He would bring Milo treats, share old stories from their working days, and simply sit and talk with. Walter, two veterans, one of the streets and one of duty, finding common ground in their shared love for the intelligent, gentle dog. Their bond, initially forged through Milo, deepened into a genuine friendship. The story of Walter and Milo was more than just a feel-good news item. It was a profound reminder of the unseen connections that bind us all. It showed that heroism comes in many forms, from the quiet bravery of an old man navigating a sightless world to the instinctive loyalty of a forgotten dog. It highlighted the compassion that can emerge even in the most bustling of cities, the willingness of strangers to pause, to help, to acknowledge shared humanity. Walter's final years were filled with a richness and warmth he had never fully known before. Milo, curled at his feet, was a constant source of comfort, companionship, and quiet joy. Their daily walks continued, a familiar rhythm through the vibrant streets of Chicago. But now, Walter walked with an even greater sense of purpose and belonging. He wasn't just a blind old man anymore. He was Walter, the man with Milo, the dog who stopped the city, the keeper of an extraordinary tale. And in Milo's intelligent eyes, Walter found a reflection of the love and understanding that had truly saved them both. Their story became a beacon, a quiet testament to the enduring power of unconditional love, and the magic that can happen when an old soul and a loyal heart find each other in the most unexpected of places. It reminded everyone that even in the heart of a rushing metropolis, there is always room for a moment of silence, a moment of connection, and a moment where two unlikely heroes can stop the world simply by crossing a street. And that, my friends, is the remarkable tale of Walter and Milo. It's a story that unfolds not in grand gestures, but in the quiet courage of everyday life, in the unwavering loyalty found in a furry companion, and in the unexpected compassion that can truly transform a bustling city street into a sanctuary of human kindness. Thank you so much for joining me today, for slowing down and allowing these forgotten whispers of history to touch your heart. If this story resonated with you, if it left you feeling a little more connected, a little more hopeful, then please do me a favor and gently tap that subscribe button. It helps our quiet corner of storytelling grow, ensuring that more incredible narratives like Walter and Milo can find their way to those who need to hear them. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep listening for the untold stories hidden all around you.